Clock. Are the, can I get a roll call from our commissioners? I see Commissioner Baralt is on the line. Commissioner Evans,
Yep.
Commissioner Blackwelder. Not yet. Commissioner Larson
Present.
Present.
and Commissioner Greengold. Okay, well, we'll wait a couple minutes for our two other commissioners to join us.
Larry, this is Holly. I believe both are on the call. I think they just need to unmute themselves.
Okay. All right, so you see them on the call. I'll need them to unmute themselves so we can talk here.
Sent Cindy and Lori a request to unmute.
So Cindy, are you on the line here?
I am. Do you hear me?
I can. And Commissioner Blackwelder? Not yet. Okay, we'll give her a couple minutes to sort this out.
This is Commissioner Blackwelder. Chairman Brown, can you hear me?
I can. Very good. Thank you. All right. Well, welcome everyone that has joined this hearing by internet or by phone. If you are not speaking, would you please mute your mic? It's my intention this evening that everyone that wants to will have an opportunity to speak, although I see there are 42 participants, I think, if I read that right. So there's a large number. We will try and make sure everyone has a chance to speak that wants to. We're going to begin this evening with a short business meeting to clear out some old business that we have kept deferring over time. And then at approximately 7:30, whether or not the old business is completed, we'll begin a public hearing on a resolution recommending that the mayor and the town council adopt a temporary moratorium on the Planning Commission's acceptance and consideration of applications for development projects. So the first order of business is to approve the agenda. Do I have a motion to approve the agenda?
I make a motion to approve the agenda.
And do we have a second?
Second.
Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor? Is anyone opposed? Hearing no opposition, the agenda is approved. Next item is approve the minutes from the January 27th Planning and Zoning meeting on short-term rentals. Do I have a motion to approve the minutes?
I will motion to approve the minutes.
Thank you, Commissioner Baralt. Do we have a second?
I will second.
Thank you, Commissioner Blackwelder. Is there anyone that opposes approving the minutes for the January 27th Planning and Zoning meeting? Hearing none, the minutes are approved. Moving on to old business, there are 5 items that I would like to get through, although that's pretty optimistic for the time that we've allowed. We have approximately 25 minutes to get through them. The first order of business is a progress report from the zoning administrator on the comprehensive plan. Mr. Jakubiak.
Hello, Mr. Chairman. We have the plan, in my view, scheduled for the next 3 Planning Commission meetings. At least I hope our agenda allows time for that. that places what I anticipate being a final draft for your use on the May meeting, which is the last Wednesday in May. And by final draft, I don't mean to suggest that's the final plan, but the draft will be in your hand, and you'll be able to decide if to go to the public for another workshop, or schedule a public hearing right then and there, or can do further consideration. So that's where I'm headed.
Thank you. What are there any new chapters for the commission to review on the Dropbox?
No, I'm working at kind of synthesizing all of them at essentially one time. So when the entire draft is finished, I'd like to post it.
And you're predicting that'll be in May?
In May, I'm predicting that the planning commission will have read it and be prepared to make a decision on how to proceed.
What will we have to look at before the next meeting in March?
Various drafts as we move forward. We've got the transportation section to still finish. We've got a housing section that needs to be presented, and I think that may be accomplished in March as well. So I anticipate a busy schedule in March.
Do you have your draft outline or table of contents for the plan? Understanding it's a draft.
Yeah, I don't have it with me here, not prepared, but obviously you've seen it. The planning commission has seen it already, but if you'd like me to get back to it later in the meeting, I can search and find it.
Okay. I'd appreciate it if you would forward just the table of your anticipated table of contents, so that we can know what to look forward to. If you
Okay, sounds good.
send that to all the commissioners by email, please.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, the next order of business at this time, I'm going to make a motion. If the motion is seconded, then there will be discussion followed by a vote to approve or disapprove. If there's no second, then we'll just move on to the next order of business. My motion. The motion is to clarify the December 15th, 2020 Commission's decision on the revised site plan for the Rod and Reel properties, that such approval does not include proposed site plan revisions to the 1936 bar and grill sign or flags to be installed on or above the roof line of the various structures on the site. And the reason is because the proposed revisions are not compliant with the Chesapeake Beach zoning code. Do I have a second?
I will second the motion.
Thank you. That's Commissioner Baralt, is that correct?
Yes, sir, Chairman.
And let's see, so discussion. As you recall, in December, we had a long discussion of these various items, and the commission had not received copies of the proposed signs or flags revision. So the individual commissioners didn't have a chance to look at them and compare them to the code. After the and during the meeting, we asked the question, and it appeared that the proposals were compliant with the code, but afterwards, when it got examined, it was revealed that they do not meet the town code. In my opinion, the commission does not grant variances to the town code, only the town council or the Board of Appeals, somebody else, but it's not the Planning and Zoning Commission. So I wanted to offer this motion to make it clear that we didn't approve a variance to the town code. Is there anyone else that would like to make a comment? Any other commissioner? Okay, hearing none. I'd like to get a positive vote, yes or no, from each commissioner. Ms. Peralta?
Mr. Chairman, I think the applicant is here, and I think due process suggests they should be able to weigh in on this. I mean, it's not as clear cut as we might want to think it is, and I think Mr. Blitz is here and would like to address this matter. At least should be given an opportunity, don't you think?
Eric, let's-
Oh, the fundamental question for me is, we don't have the authority to grant approvals for things that are not in code. We can, and I'm wondering if the rest of the commission agrees with me. But if Mr. Blitz would like to weigh in, go ahead, Mr. Blitz.
Yes, thank you, Chairman Brown, and thank you to the members of the commissioners. Good evening. The reason this was different is it was handled differently from the original site plan. From the beginning of the permitting process on the preliminary site plan for the Rod and Reel project, we discussed the fact that the Chesapeake Beach sign ordinance doesn't fit well with the larger parcels. And at the time, we demonstrated that the tenant signs at the shopping center also don't comply with the zoning ordinance, because the way the ordinance is crafted, the larger the property gets, the less overall signage that is available. And that signs for each tenant would have to be so small that you would not even make them commercially feasible. So the reason this was an issue that under your code is the total aggregate signage for on-site signs in the commercial districts when they're attached to a building was limited to 10% of the total area of the building, or 100 square feet, whichever is less. And the way the ordinance was written, there was a belief that it applied to the Maritime District as well, although we never really settled that point. But the workaround that was adopted by the zoning administrator and the Planning and Zoning Commission was to treat the project as having its own sign plan, so that it was deemed to be its own set of regulatory approval that was site specific to regulate the signs on the property. Which is why you had an overall sign plan approval with the site plan rather than, an individualized assessment of each sign. So that was the approach taken when the final site plan was approved, so that when we came to you on December 15th, we addressed the two proposed changes to that sign plan that we thought made better sense. So that was the 1936 sign and the flags, replacing the banners. Because otherwise there would have been no reason for us to bring those specific changes to the commission in the first instance if we weren't handling it on a sign plan like we had talked about in the original site plan approval. Because the 14-inch requirement for the 1936 sign, well, let me back up and say, there is a requirement that says that signs hanging off a building can't exceed 14 inches. Under the proposal that we made, that would never happen. You could never get that. And so if we hadn't done through the sign plan, which didn't have full compliance, but was deemed to be compliant as an overall site plan, then you wouldn't need a variance. You would just approve it as an amendment to that sign plan. Similarly with the flags, because we were doing a replacement of the banners that had been included in the final site plan's sign plan with the proposed rooftop flags, we thought it prudent to amend the sign plan for those. Backing up, or more broadly, I don't think the town has any authority to regulate the flags in the first instance. They aren't commercial signs. And they aren't banner signs under the code, but protected speech under the First Amendment. To characterize the flag of Chesapeake Beach or the state of Maryland or the county as signs is not supported by the code's definition of signs, as there's no commercial intent. And so for the previously approved banners on the garage, changing those made sense, because although they were going to be artistic, they would have also had the Rod and Reel logo at the bottom. So that is why those were subject to the sign regulations of the town. And, if the flagpoles were too high relative to the height regulation, which is a broader general regulation, that would have been subject to, a reason to deny a site plan or these flags, but they don't come anywhere close to the 70-foot height limitation. And so in any event, the commission discussed both the site plan amendment and the signs during its deliberations on the 15th. And then when they voted, the commission voted on it all together as an amendment to the site plan. And I don't think you should be changing a legally recorded vote now to separate those issues. It just doesn't seem appropriate. I will point out that Mr. Jakubiec, I shouldn't move the screen. Mr. Jakubiec as the zoning administrator has a separate and distinct authority to ensure zoning compliance, which he could exercise with respect to the 1936 sign, notwithstanding the approval of the commission. I mean, it'd be unusual, but he could do that. And I think that would have the effect of keeping your approval untarnished with respect to process, but putting it on the applicant to either work with Mr. Jakubiec to find a way to make it compliant or to seek an appeal of his administrative ruling or a variance. Which I think are, probably the better approach. I just don't think you should be changing after the fact a vote that you already took. And I can answer any questions you have.
Thank you, Mr. Blitz. Any commissioners have comments?
Chairman, this is Laura Blackwelder. I agree with your assessment that this is better decided by a Board of Appeals. In the future, it would be better if the site plans came in a complete form, and if what we were reviewing was accurate and reviewed according to the code, and it did not. And so I think at this point, you're correct that it's a matter of the Board of Appeals, and technically we could probably do the same thing for the other part of the site plan that we reviewed, but we are not. So I think it's better left with the Board of Appeals for this sign situation. Thank you.
Any other commissioners? Mr. Jakubiec, would you care to weigh in?
Yeah, I think it's perfectly acceptable for the Planning Commission to consider a motion for reconsideration of any vote if it felt that it wasn't properly informed at the time it took the vote. And I think with respect to the signs, you weren't. I remember that evening, and in response to your question, Mr. Chairman, I said that the site plan complied with the zoning standards, and I believe that to be the case. But I didn't, in my mind at the time, think that you were referring to the signs. For some reason, I had compartmentalized that and just didn't get back to bringing that to your attention. So when the motion was passed, I thought to myself, they just approved something that is specifically counter to the standards in the zoning ordinance when they thought they were doing just the opposite. So I thought based on that grounds alone, you can certainly reconsider. Obviously, you wouldn't keep kicking the can down the road and reconsider a year from now, but you've made your intention known that you wanted to reconsider it not long after that and that meeting, and I advised the applicant right away as well. And as an aside, I have approved the zoning permit to enable the applicant to get the building permit to do the building changes, but I withheld any approval for the sign changes, both the flags. So the applicants could, obviously appeal that determination. But ultimately, I do think this is a variance question, and I think that the Board of Appeals can certainly handle this as a request for a variance, and they would have the process and the standards to use to consider it at a public hearing. But anyway, I think it is okay to do a reconsideration, and I do think it's okay and advisable to make it a Board of Appeals decision. Of course, the applicant would have the responsibility of appealing it to the Board of Appeals on the basis of a variance.
Thank you. Thank you. I would point out that we have consulted our town attorney, and he suggested this approach to correct the record, and that this is not, the motion does not disapprove anything. It only says that the approval that we granted does not include the signs and flags. So from my reading of it, we aren't taking a position one way or the other. We're simply correcting what I think is a problem. So if there's any other discussion,
Mr. Chairman,
yes.
this is Commissioner Barral. I just wanted to state that I'm very glad that we are gonna actually do the reconsideration and state that at this time, because I think it's really important, the fact that it came to our attention that we approved something that wasn't in compliance. I think it's right that it's rectified, and we weigh in again so that what we approved, we rectify it so that it is now in, with the realization of the information that came in. Because I don't think that, weighing in again is not necessarily inappropriate. I think in fact it is very appropriate, because it shows our true consideration and wanting to make sure that our approvals are within compliance of the code. So I just wanted to add my comment.
Thank you very much. If there's no other comment, can I run around the room? Start with Commissioner Barral. Do you approve or disapprove?
I approve.
Okay, Commissioner Larson,
Approve.
Commissioner Blackwelder,
I approve.
Commissioner Evans,
I approve.
and Commissioner Greengold.
Approve.
Thank you very much. The motion is approved. Next order of business, at this time, I have another motion. And again, if it is seconded, then we'll follow it with discussion and a vote to approve or disapprove. Let's see, let me get this. All right. This motion is directing these, this is a follow-on to our last meeting in January. And my motion is directing the zoning administrator to prepare and present to the commission a report including draft zoning and text amendments that clarify the town prohibition on short-term rentals, and also includes alternative draft language amendments that partially lift such prohibition. So is there any discussion? Do I have a second?
I'll second the motion.
Thank you. And so any discussion?
Yeah, I have something, Larry. At first I was hoping we could kind of dedicate a whole meeting to this topic, but I know with the comprehensive plan that we're working on and the time constraints, I agree with your opinion to direct Chris to come up with something. I do have a suggestion that we could all submit recommendations for enforcement or regulation ideas. That way we can kind of help Chris with some of our ideas of things that we would like to actually have regulated for these. And that way we can all kind of consolidate our ideas into one document that Chris comes up with and go from there.
Okay, I think that's a good idea. If the individual commissioners have suggestions for this report, if you will forward them independently to Mr. Kubiak, and he will incorporate them into his report. I would point out also that every month I have the opportunity to report to the town council at the town council meetings. And at the last town council meeting last week, Councilman Morris was very interested in this and said that he would be forwarding some suggestions for language or changes that could be considered for short-term rentals. So we should be getting recommendations from all sorts of directions. Also, the note that I have to prepare a report to the town council every month. And my first draft had to be shortened just for brevity's sake. And but as you recall, it had information that Commissioner Larson had found in Santa Fe, New Mexico's town code, which just came into effect January 1st. And let's see, Commissioner Evans had found some language in the Annapolis town code. And I had some language from the North Beach town code, which was very brief and to the short to the point. So we'll provide all of that to Mr. Jakubiak and ask him to look at suggestions for his report, and then we'll come back and consider it. All of these things will take a lot of time. We will have to make any recommendation of the town council will take a hearing and more meetings. So it isn't a simple process.
Chairman Brown,
Yes, yes.
I have some prepared ideas and things I want to talk about with short-term rentals. Is now a good time, or should I hold off? But the ideas that I have that are pertinent to the town, I think should be heard before people come up with ideas, because it might change or impact the way they come up with different ideas. I'm just wondering if you want me to discuss. I know you're at 7:28 right now. Do we have time for me to go over some thoughts that I have, or no?
Can I table that for right now, and we will devote the first part of the March meeting to allow each commissioner to present their ideas on this subject. Does that make sense? Give us all.
Well, I think the question I'm having is, have we decided that everybody wants to go in a certain direction in order for us to take the time to put in, okay, we're definitely going to make alternatives to the current rule, the current zoning laws? I mean, it seems like we should first come up with the idea that yes, we want to change them, or no, we don't want to change them, and then we should come up with the different. I mean, to have Chris and everybody else start making up all the, going through all the motions, maybe we should have a discussion on if we really want it or not, because there might be more council members here, or I'm sorry, commissioner members here who don't want it, and then we've done all this for nothing. Do you see what I'm saying?
Yeah, I see what you're saying. And this motion is, if the motion is voted down, that means that Mr. Jakubiak doesn't write a report, and it ends our discussion on short-term rentals.
But I'm just saying that we haven't really had a discussion in order for us to come to the conclusion of making, of recommending this motion, is what I'm saying. So in other words, I hate to put Chris through all the efforts of doing this if we haven't had a discussion in order to come to a conclusion that yes, he should do it. You see what I'm saying? I mean, I'm thinking of time here. I just don't want everybody to go through all these efforts. Everybody comes out and says, no, we don't want him to do that. I'm trying to save you, Chris.
We do want to get everybody's ideas on the table, I think. I mean, all right,
I don't know what
I will table my motion till the next meeting. And if you will bring your ideas to the next meeting, we'll discuss it at the beginning and then move on, hopefully, to comprehensive plan discussion.
That's a good idea, because this is a big, I think Jonathan is right. This is too big of an issue to squeeze into 3 minutes. I really think we need to make this a better discussion. I
Okay.
agree.
All
Thank
right.
you.
So I will table my motion directing the zoning administrator to prepare and present a report.
Thank you.
The next order of business, next two orders of business were motions that were tabled, that have been tabled, and I would like to get,
Wait, was number D tabled?
say again,
I'm sorry, was D tabled?
D.
You said the next two, and that was D and E. I know that
Oh,
Lori tabled hers, but what happened to D? Did we like table that and I didn't realize it? Maybe I'm last to
no,
know
that's
everything.
that, you're next. The next
Oh.
order of business is
I think I'm totally confused.
it's a motion that you raised last fall, and it was on our agenda in December and again in January. It was deferred, and so I'd like to,
This again is another one of those, we need some time, and I'm feeling that I can't do it justice. And I don't want to put Chris through a lot of effort again. So I guess we should table the motion and bring it to the next meeting again. How many times have I done this though?
the motion is just to set a future hearing date.
Well, I don't want a hearing yet. We can't have a hearing yet until we've discussed
All right, so you're
what
proposing
Chris
that
has
we
put
table-
onto the table here. We need to first discuss that, and then we come back and decide whether or not we want to make it a hearing or what we want to do with it, and then that's when the hearing comes. So I
Okay,
don't think we're at
so
that point yet.
You're proposing that your motion be tabled.
If that's okay with everybody, I think since we're gonna have to go at 7:30, I guess I have no choice. So unless you think we can come back to it. I don't want to table it if you think we can come back to that, or do you think?
All right, we will try and come back to it at the end of tonight's meeting. However, there are, I don't know how many people are here tonight. You can see on your screen, and I have no idea how many of them want to talk. So we will.
Can I be first? Can I be first on the list next time so that we can get this thing moved on? I mean, because I've already postponed this particular item 3 times, I think it has been. So I think
Well, that's my problem. I'm
if
trying.
you
to
don't mind
sort
us
it out.
putting it first on the list, I would be
So
grateful.
let me restate it. There's a motion to consider this as the first item on the March agenda. Do
I would second that motion.
All right,
I don't know if we need a motion, but that's okay.
well,
I second that motion.
all right, is there any discussion? Hearing none?
I'm in.
Oh, go ahead, Commissioner Blackwelder.
Oh, I was just saying that I'm in favor, but please
Okay,
continue with.
all right, Commissioner Evans,
I'm in favor.
Commissioner Larson,
Favor.
Commissioner Brault.
Favor?
Motion passes. Will be the first item on the March
you.
agenda.
Thank you.
The last motion, if we, as I understand it, Commissioner Blackwelder would like to table this until a future date. Is that correct?
That's correct, Larry, but I would like to return to item C and make that motion if you do not want to make it. And let's just get a consensus here of whether we want to get some of this. As I understand it, your motion in item C is to direct the planning and administrator to present both an amendment to clarify short-term rentals and potential alternatives. And I think it would be appropriate if we began to get something on paper. So I would like to make the motion stated in motion C and put it to a vote for now.
Well, we just passed a motion to move it to our decision to
Well,
move
you
it
tabled it.
first part of the next meeting. So, all right, you're making a motion that, what, essentially the same as item B to prepare a report?
As item C that you made originally.
All right, so we have a motion to clarify the December, wait a second, a motion directing the zoning administrator to prepare and present to the commission a report, including draft zoning and text amendments that clarify the town prohibition on short-term rentals and includes draft alternative amendments that partially lift such prohibition. We have a second?
I second.
All in favor?
Are we gonna have discussion or no? No discussion?
Oh,
Sorry. If we're gonna make this a motion, it should be, we have to go through the whole process, I'm afraid.
go ahead. You're up.
Well, I again feel that we as a commission have not really discussed any of this issue. I know that we had one side of the aisle present ideas, but I think we need to hear from other people that have different ideas. And sadly, nobody,
If
I'm sorry?
we have a report, then we'll have to decide on what we want. And then there will be a public hearing on whether we decide to send anything to the town council. So we have a lot of work to do before, and we need some ideas on the table. And that's, I think, is what Commissioner Evans and Commissioner Blackwelder are saying.
but I'm trying to suggest that I have some thoughts about our neighborhood that need to be presented before anybody comes up with rules and ideas and restrictions. And that's why I wanted to be heard before we send Chris off to write up a report, which takes a lot of time and effort. So, I mean, I feel like we've only heard from one side of the table here, and I think we need to hear from the other side, and we haven't heard that side. And I wanted to present different sides of the table.
We
I
had
mean, I feel like this has been
we had a January hearing where everybody that wanted to speak.
Well,
spoke.
I had people telling me that because somebody took over an hour worth of hearing time, they couldn't even get into the Zoom meeting. So I'm hearing from the other side of the table where people were ticked off with that hearing because instead of having it 5 minutes per person, we had one person take up an entire hour, and I've never heard of a public hearing like that. So I don't even find that was an accurate or a very beneficial public hearing. A public hearing means that you give everybody the expectations. You have 5 minutes each. He had a whole PowerPoint presentation, and nobody else had. I had people from the neighborhood who went on, heard this guy ramble on, and went off. They came on, went off. They said, "Well, we can't get into that. We're not staying on for that," and they didn't. So I'm sorry to say that I don't think that public hearing was an accurate and appropriate public hearing for this particular issue, which I think for those of us who live in the impacted area, I think we need to be heard. Nobody from the area where this is going to impact has been heard. All the people who want this are from people who live outside the area.
As you said, we need to limit people's time so we can move on. We have a motion on the table. We have a second. Those that agree with Commissioner Greengold should vote against the motion. Those that agree that we should pass the motion should vote in favor. Do we have, let's see, Commissioner Larson?
Help me again, where, if I,
All right, if you vote in favor of the motion, then it will be, it will direct Mr. Jakubiec to put together ideas on what we could or should do on short-term rentals. If you vote against the motion, then we won't have Mr. Jakubiec write a report.
I vote for it then.
Okay, and Commissioner Baralt.
A point of clarification, Chairman. So if I say no, we will still have the discussion opportunity in March. But Mr. Jakubiec will just will write the report, or no, if I vote no, he will not write the report, but we'll have an opportunity to discuss and hear different ideas in March at the next meeting. Is that correct?
That's correct, but we'll limit it to only a portion of the meeting.
Okay, then I am not in favor of Mr. Jakubiec writing the report.
Okay, we have one no and one yes. Commissioner Blackwelder.
I'm for moving forward and starting with something. So I am for the motion that I put forward because I believe we need to start somewhere.
Okay, Commissioner Evans.
Yeah, I'm with Lori and Jeff on this one. I think that we should all submit our suggestions to Chris, our comments to Chris, and consolidate everything. And that'll require a lot less time of us in March, that if we have something to go off of, that we can bounce ideas and comments off of instead of starting from scratch. So I'm for the motion to.
All right, so the motion is 3 in favor, 2 opposed. The motion passes. Provide your input to Mr. Jakubiec, and we'll devote part of the next meeting to this discussion. And the final thing on my old business was Commissioner Blackwelder's motion. As I understand it, you wanted to table that?
Yes, Chairman, I'd like to table that until such time that we know for sure what each district name is called.
Okay. Is there any objection to tabling it? Okay, without objection, all right. We are moving in now into the public hearing on a resolution recommending that the mayor and the town council adopt a temporary moratorium on the planning commission's acceptance and consideration of applications for development projects. First, I'd like to ask Mr. Jakubiec to give us the background on this, and the commissioners can ask questions of Mr. Jakubiec. We will then go to public comment, leading off with Mr. Blitz, who asked to make a presentation, and I told him we would allow him 15 minutes to make a presentation on his concerns, and then we will open it up to other members of the public. So, Mr. Jakubiec, could you introduce this this subject?
Chairman,
Yes.
this is Commissioner Brault. In regards to the recommendations to Mr. Jakubiec, do we have a date when that has to be submitted to him that he would like them by?
Mr. Jakubiec?
2 weeks from tonight would be ideal.
Okay.
Okay, 2 weeks from tonight. Now, so
Thank you.
that leads right into Mr. Jakubiec. You've got the floor. Would you briefly describe what's at issue here and the proposal?
Yeah, so we have before us tonight a proposed resolution that would ask the mayor and council to adopt a temporary moratorium on the planning commission's consideration of new development proposals. The rationale is really about, and as you know, Mr. Chairman, I made this recommendation to you after consulting with the town manager for the purposes of understanding administrative issues and the town attorney for the purposes of understanding legal issues. I made this recommendation because at the end of the day, the most important part of my job is to see that the town develops a comprehensive plan that reflects the broad public interests. And as you know, each of you, the planning commission members, are appointed to demonstrate that interest and bring it to the table. And it's clear that, to me at least, that the direction that the planning commission seems to be heading and the emerging consensus is one that the development projects that we've found ourselves with now being proposed would not accommodate very well. In fact, as you know, on January 29th, the town received 5 major site plan development proposals. that's on the administrative side itself is extremely burdensome. Not to suggest we couldn't do it, but we'd have to accept a substantial delay to the preparation of the comprehensive plan. That is without a doubt. So this unprecedented submittal, 5 development plans, simply sets back your efforts to prepare the plan for the community. Not only that, the analysis you've done on sea level rise, flooding, the need for design standards, and even if you look at tonight's agenda, there are 2 things that you are considering that are likely to find their way into this comprehensive plan, at least in a draft form, building heights and even what Lori considers residential allocations. I'm not quite sure what that means yet, but it suggests to me that the commission is very skeptical about any further development, particularly in areas that could be flooded, and the impacts on taller structures on sight lines and just the town character. So, at the end of the day, we have to step back and say, these projects, if approved, could really disrupt your planning process. And you haven't even fully obtained the review and approval of the entire community. So this temporary pause allows for you to do your work, allows for the community at large to influence your work, to participate and engage with you. And the fact is, at the end of the day, these projects may in fact ultimately be find a home in this plan that you're doing. They may or may not, but the question is, do we preempt the work that the public is doing to prepare a plan for itself? And this resolution clearly answers that question. So I'm recommending that you adopt it. I had proposed 9 months in deliberations with the chairman. He suggested 12. I think he's very realistic and practical, and 12 months to me seems reasonable because it's not just the plan, it's a set of ordinances that would have to be adopted to implement the plan. Because you could adopt a new plan, but still be operating under the old rules. So I think his recommendation is valid. I wouldn't suggest going over 12 months. And I think having this moratorium puts the onus on us to move quickly, to get this plan done, to make our meetings very efficient, to decide and get this project out in front of the community as soon as possible. So that's what the moratorium is all about. It doesn't interfere with anyone's ability to pull a permit to build a single house, or to build an addition to a house, or to build an accessory apartment if that's approved already. And for projects that are already approved, that have your approval for final plat, they can continue. So for instance, Crestview Lane at Richfield Station, you've given that project final plat approval, but the chairman hasn't signed the plat yet because they're still negotiating the public works agreement with the town. That project would be exempted from this. There's not the intent at all that a project like that be held up by this moratorium. That is a project that has already been approved and is well on its way to being completed. So this is a moratorium on your consideration of new applications.
Okay, thank you. I would just comment that I think 9 months to complete both the comprehensive plan and ordinances to implement it is extremely optimistic, considering we've been hoping to get a transportation chapter to review since last, I think, November, and we're still working on it and maybe not expecting it till April. So that's my opinion. And that's, so I think even 12 months is probably optimistic considering the depth of the discussions that the commission is having. And this is, correct me if I'm wrong, this is what's being suggested is a major change in direction of the comprehensive plan. Is that correct, Mr. Jakubiak?
Do you mean what is currently being worked on by the planning commission to this planning commission's current draft? mean, clearly the land use section that you've reviewed multiple times over the years, over the past couple of years, and has generally become much more stringent and restrictive in terms of growth and development. That is substantially different than the current plan we're operating under.
But I'll just add, we aren't making minor changes to the existing comprehensive plan. We're completely redrafting it from scratch.
Yeah, that's
As I've seen it, we haven't incorporated anything from the previous plan so far.
well, that's not necessarily the case, but it is a full rewrite. It's not a simple update.
Yeah, so and considering that we have the last 2 meetings and this meeting too, we will have made basically no discussions or progress on the comprehensive plan in 3 months. Not even discussions of it. So that's why I think 12 months is frankly optimistic to get it done. But we should hopefully have direction on which way we're going and be able to make some other decisions. So anyway, other commissioners, you have questions of Mr. Jakubiec? Okay,
Chairman,
Commissioner Blackwelder.
yes, I have a few comments.
Okay.
So I agree with Chris that the direction is going towards restricting some of the growth that was allowed in the previous comprehensive plan. But I would like to comment, and I would like to have a discussion, a short discussion next meeting possibly, about not rewriting the entire plan, but working with the existing plan to implement some of the zoning changes that we need and want in order to address capacity, because that's really what this is all about, is addressing capacity and not letting Chesapeake Beach develop beyond capacity. So I don't think to address that issue that we need to do an entire rewrite, and what Chris is planning for next meeting as far as the housing chapter and all of the data chapters that he's planning, that shouldn't interfere with just trying to work with what we have as far as district names, different codes, rather than do a rewrite of the entire comprehensive plan. I think that we can implement our vision through an update of the old plan if we methodically go through the old plan and make the changes that we desire. So that's a conversation that I would like to have. I think it would shorten our comprehensive plan timing. That's not on this week's agenda, so we can talk about it further and decide whether or not to put it on the next agenda. And before we're finished with this moratorium discussion, I would like to make actually it looks like 3 amendments to the moratorium.
Okay, go ahead.
Okay, so there's a section that has been written, and it starts with the line, whereas Planning Commission, after extensive study and deliberation and open meetings and work sessions, anticipates that it will recommend a revised comprehensive plan implementing ordinance that will address the significant foreseeable challenges the community is and will face, including among others. So that's the whereas statement. And at the end of those statements, I would like to add a G, H, and I.
What is what page are you on?
2 of 4.
About my own. Thank you, Holly. Okay, so after F, which is the last statement there, I would like to propose G as, and this is stating one of the challenges that we would like to address is G, the exponentially increasing popularity of the North Beach Farmers Market and Beach Boardwalk over the past 10 years, adding traffic along Maryland Route 260 and Maryland Route 261. H, recent high-intensity development at the rod and reel site with traffic implications that have not yet been assessed and cannot be accurately assessed due to the COVID-19 pandemic. And I, recent completion of and ongoing development of large-scale residential neighborhoods over the past 10 years with traffic implications that have not yet been assessed and cannot be assessed accurately during the COVID-19 pandemic. So those are all factors also contributing to the very good reasons why we need to have a moratorium. Any high capacity building after the last 10 years of development would be very irresponsible to approve without traffic studies, especially considering the vast intensity increases that have gone on in certain properties. So I would like that considered in this moratorium, or I would defer that to the town council and the town attorney if they think it's appropriate to include it, but it is part of my reasoning for supporting this moratoria.
Okay, is there any objection to including those 3 paragraphs on page 2 and 3? Hearing no objection, we will include those 3 subparagraphs, and when we read the resolution, we'll ask you to read those 3 paragraphs into the motion.
Thank you,
all right. Commissioner Baralt, do you have any comments you'd like to make?
No, I do not.
Thank you. Commissioner Evans?
Yeah, I'd like to comment. I know that these, we've mentioned that these changes that we're making in this comprehensive plan are somewhat drastic and different from the previous comprehensive plans. I'd like to point out that the input that we receive from the public is mostly what drives our decisions to make these changes, and we listened to the people and what they wanted, and we gave a survey to the whole town and we got the results, and that's the main driving force behind our comprehensive plan changes. So I just wanted to point that out.
Okay, thank you. That suggests to me that we'll need to have more opportunities for the public to weigh in as we get down to the language that we put into this comprehensive plan. It means more work. All right, and Commissioner Larson.
No, I'm fine. I'm good.
Okay, and Commissioner Greengold, any questions or comments, observations? Okay, hearing none from
You're
Commissioner.
muted, Cindy. Can you hear her?
Yeah, you're
Chairman,
Hello.
Chairman,
I'm sorry. You couldn't hear me. You couldn't hear me, Chris. I'm sorry. I complimented you, so you had to hear me, Chris.
Oh,
I said you did a great job in writing it all up, the moratorium up. And I think Lori's amendments were very appropriate. And I agree with Jonathan that there's been a lot of information gathered. So I think we don't do this lightly. I think it's an important move that we make, putting this on hold. I think even Lori brought this up a long time ago that we should put a moratorium on this. So I think going forward with this is a great idea right now. Thank you.
Okay.
Chairman?
Hello, who is this?
it's Kathleen, Commissioner Brault.
Yes.
I just wanted to ask, I know there was discussion, Chris said initially that he recommended a 9-month moratorium, and then you made the comment about a 12-month moratorium, and obviously there's a great deal of work ahead. So if in fact at some point, at some juncture, that it comes to be that we are somewhere between 9 and 12 months unable to meet the 12-month mandate, will there be an opportunity to extend that, or what will be the outcome of that?
Well, if, first of all, as the resolution reads right now, if we completed our work in May with the draft that Chris had recommended, and the ordinances were completed the month later, we would, this moratorium would end. So it can end earlier because it says one or the other, complete the work or 12 months. If at the end of 12 months, or sometime in there, we said we need more time and we need the moratorium extended, we would have to go back, I believe, to the town council and ask them, because we are not imposing a moratorium. Only the town council can impose it. So we would have to go back to them and request that they extend the moratorium. And if they did, it would be extended. If they didn't, it wouldn't be. Does that make sense?
Yes, thank you.
Okay. All right, we have one presentation this evening from the attorney representing the Rod and Reel Corporation. Could I ask just before Mr. Blitz begins to run around and see if we can get an idea of how many people following Mr. Blitz would like to speak? Could you speak up, please, if you intend to follow Mr. Blitz, and I'll put you on my list here and make sure you get a chance to talk.
Chairman Brown, this is Holly. Participants can also do the raise hand option as well.
All right, so I see two raised hands. Let's see.
Mr. Chairman, I intend to speak.
That's three.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to speak as well and can't find the raise hand button.
Right, four. So, all right, so that's a doable number, easily doable. So let's go ahead with, without any further delay, Mr. Blitz, if you'd like to make your presentation.
Yes, thank you, Chairman Brown. Chairman Brown, members of the commission, as you know, I represent the Rod and Reel. I have Mary Lanham and Wesley Donovan with me tonight on behalf of the Donovan family. So after I make my presentation, they wish to be heard briefly, but you can take them as you see fit with respect to the presentation from the Rod and Reel. You've received my letter, I presume, which went through all the details of the points. I'm not going to raise those again now, but they describe the history of how my clients' parcels were planned for, both by this commission in its comprehensive planning and by the property owners, including successive property owners. So I'll focus now on the broad principles at stake with this proposed moratorium and some of the key points in my letter. The Donovan family has 5 pending projects before the commission that would be impacted by this moratorium. These are projects that the commission and the town have known about for a very long time, in some instances decades, as they were previously approved with site plans and even zoning permits issued. Due to the 2008 financial crisis, these projects had to be put on hold. But now the markets are ripe for these developments, with a very high demand for townhouses and apartments in Calvert County and the town. But just after we filed the applications to get these new approvals for the projects, some people want to change the rules through the new comprehensive plan. And I think, as it's quite evident by your discussion tonight and the resolution itself, that is the true purpose of the proposed moratorium. I would argue that that is simply unfair. The commission has been working on the new comprehensive plan for years. I myself attended a public work session in 2018. During those 3 years you've been working on the new plan, you've not stopped your process for your administrative work. You've reviewed other site plans, including the amendment to the Rod and Reel site plan that we dealt with in December. A planning commission has both a planning policy role and an administrative role. It wears these two hats at the same time. Chesapeake Beach zoning ordinance codifies that principle in section 290-31A, which lists 10 different functions of the commission. And these include comprehensive planning as well as reviewing site plans. So the presumption is clearly in favor that it is reasonable for this commission to do both functions at the same time, and you have done so. Furthermore, the direction of the public policy of the town is that meetings be held often enough for an expeditious review of site plans. That's cited in section 290-31E1. So I greatly respect the time commitment that the commission members dedicate to this town, and the planning functions of the commission should not take precedence over the administrative functions of the town, or vice versa. But because the latter implicates the owner's property rights, administrative functions do have to be done in a timely fashion. The proposed motion recommends a moratorium last until you have completed the comprehensive plan and the zoning ordinance and map. I would agree with Chairman Brown that I think it's highly optimistic that you're going to get that done in 2 years. For the 2002 comprehensive plan, it took almost 2 full years after the plan was passed by the town council for the zoning ordinance to be put into place. It can be that long and detailed a process to translate the broad policy goals of a planning into the implementation of zoning. And that's understandable. It's a complex process and it requires careful and studied attention. But I submit that you can, if you wanted to, review the site plans of all 5 of these projects one at a time over a 2-month period each. However, it could even be 3. You'd still have plenty of time to perform your planning and policy duties for the new comprehensive plan. The site plans are not particularly complex as they build off the site plans that you've already approved. To make the Donovan family have to hold their development of their properties in abeyance until you pass a new comprehensive plan and zoning ordinance means that their properties lie unrealized when the market is now demanding multifamily units. And the market could, of course, change again as it did in 2008. The other justifications offered by the moratorium are worse, as I elaborated in my letter. To hold up the development approvals of applications submitted to you under the current rules, so some members can push their agenda to change those rules to make those developments impossible, is unfair and will damage the reputation of the town of Chesapeake Beach. It would be different if these proposals were minor changes to the town comprehensive planning approach, but they aren't. They're a radical change that contradicts the policy recommendations of the Planning and Zoning Commission and as adopted by the town councils for every comprehensive plan since 1971. That's the entire history of zoning in Chesapeake Beach. For 50 years now, the town has encouraged a diversity of housing types, including multifamily dwellings. As I laid out rather exhaustively in my letter, the town has sought to locate multifamily dwellings in locations that made good planning sense. And for the last 40 of those years, that's been the core of the town center, if you will, which includes the Maritime District. And 3 of these projects are located there. A complete ban on multifamily dwellings and the imposition of a 35-foot height limitation upends decades of policy guidance that property owners justifiably relied upon. Comprehensive plans are supposed to build off each other, not completely rearrange the policy guidance about acceptable uses and height limits that have been the cornerstone of prior planning. The past comprehensive plans have called for the density and multifamily dwellings to be located exactly where the Donovan family proposes to build them. These projects were specifically planned for and described in the latest and current comprehensive plan. The purchase of property for development is a long-term investment, so dramatic changes to land policy that this commission appears to be considering between comprehensive plans is simply bad policy for any town. Now, you can say that these debates about what should go into the next comprehensive plan are for another day, another hearing, but these ideas are part of the justifications being used for this moratorium. All comprehensive plans are supposed to be that, comprehensive. There are numerous state mandates about the required elements of a comprehensive plan, and as it's clear, you have not completed those elements. So by definition, proposals that seek to change the specific zoning restrictions, such as a ban on multifamily dwellings or a severe restriction in the decades-old height limitation, that's putting the cart before the horse. It's certainly not considering the mandated elements. If this moratorium passes with this rationale, you are prejudging the zoning outcomes when you haven't finished the planning process that is supposed to be the legal predicate upon which town zoning authority depends. To impose a moratorium on the premise that the new comprehensive plan might include these changes in policy is to prejudge the outcome of your planning, the recommendations you'd make to the town council, the hearings and the public testimony you take in, and the mayor and town council's actions in adopting your recommendations. As I've noted, all 5 of the rod and reel proposed projects are substantially similar to development plans which the town staff and Planning and Zoning Commission have been aware of and reviewed. They are consistent with State of Maryland's mandated visions for smart growth, which have been included in your comprehensive plan since 1997. The town has developed infrastructure and recreational facilities in the areas that were intended to meet the needs of the most intense residential development. And I laid those out in detail in my letter. Most of the current residential property owners in the town are the beneficiaries of development proposals that were opposed at the time by people worried about traffic, the environment, the need to preserve an old town or small town atmosphere. And it's a typical but deleterious impulse that citizens who move to a location seek to close the gates behind them to prevent others from moving into the community as they did. But it's an impulse that you as smart planners should know needs to be tempered by the need for growth, replenishing the housing stock with new homes, providing diversity in housing types, a dynamic economy, and an expanded tax base. People in town complained about the proposed construction of Chesapeake Station, Windward Key, Richfield Station, Bayview Hills, the ball fields, the community center, and countless other projects, large and small, when they were proposed. But then those became the basis upon which the community was organized. And people continue to enjoy their lives in Chesapeake Beach. When such developments are proposed, they are housing. When they're completed, they're someone's home. And I would urge that you not try to impose a moratorium to allow you to close the door behind and let other people in town. In both of the last 2 comprehensive plans, which takes us back 2 decades, the commission and the town continue to plan and encourage multifamily development. And we're specifically identifying these projects in their comprehensive plans as the ones that were coming online soon. Specifically for the marina, in both 2002 and 2010 comprehensive plans, the commission identified the potential, as it stated, vibrant and economic sustaining development within the marina areas along Fishing Creek. Space exists for a sizable increase in the intensity of the marina and related tourism development. Then there's this other quote. There is a need for a variety, this is from the 1990 comprehensive plan that was actually quoted by the 2010. There is a need for a variety of housing types in a community to meet different residential requirements. Although Chesapeake Beach has been predominantly single family in character, well-planned townhouse and apartment developments are required to preserve the natural environment and provide integrated community and commercial activities. You know, the Donovan family and the town, as I said, took substantial steps in reliance on these past comprehensive plans to develop these specific properties with multifamily uses at the intensity that was called for in the plans. And you know, the law of Maryland in Maryland on comprehensive planning is that the plan shall serve as a guide to public and private actions and the decisions to ensure development of public and private property in appropriate relationships. So in reliance upon that policy direction of the town's comprehensive plans, the Donovan family sought to develop these properties, which are the subject of the current applications. You know, as I noted in the letter, the marina developments, which are 3 of the 5, were planned by the Sissons. So this is back into the 90s. And they were reviewed and given site plan approvals for at least the Harbor Vista, what we now call Harbor Vista North. Now, the point in describing these prior approvals by the commission and the town is not that those dictate the outcomes of your current site review. They don't. But it shows how the property owners, and not just the Donovans, planned for developments in the past based upon comprehensive plans, and how the town developed infrastructure such as the ball fields and the community center to be located in close proximity to that dense residential development. That was the plan. In addition, the rod and reel was purchased at great expense, and the town sold water and sewer capital connection charges for these properties, for these developments. They were put on hold, obviously, due to the 2008 crash, but they're still associated with the property. The towns included those water and sewer taps calculations in your water and sewer infrastructure planning in the 2010 comprehensive plan. For Home Place, 25 water and sewer taps were purchased, 28 for Marina West versus via the Fishing Creeks, and 25 for the Home Place. Stinnett has them. And I'd also point out that the town participated in the shared parking plans for the Fishing Creek and Rod and Reel developments as they were related to the ball fields, the town water park, the parking for the boat ramps, and the access and the community center. These were negotiated agreements that reached by between the town and Fishing Creek Landings Corp., which is the predecessor owner of the marina. The state was involved, Calvert County was involved, and they include easements. And they were all predicated upon these future plans of Fishing Creek Landings. In short, these projects are the realization of all that planning by the property owners in the town. And you shouldn't just throw out all that work, investment, and expectations to impose a complete ban on multifamily dwellings or a severe height limitation that would render the density impossible in the exact spot where density has been called for decades. A moratorium based upon the idea that you might throw out all of the past planning is bad policy and unfair to the Donovans. I thank you for your consideration of this presentation, and I urge you to read carefully my letter for the details, and I urge this commission to vote no on the proposed moratorium. And as I said, I would like to turn it over to Mary Lanham and Wesley Donovan to speak on behalf of the Donovans, but I don't want to upend the order that the chair would choose, so I will end there.
Thank you, Mr. Litz. Those are important points you've raised. Mr. Donovan, if you'd like to follow up this time.
Yeah, I'd like Mary to go ahead and start. My father did teach me a few things right, and ladies always get to go first.
Good evening, Chairman Brown and members of the committee. Wes and I appreciate your time this evening and are honored to represent our family. My name is Mary Lanham, and I am proud to say that I am the mother of 7 and a native of Chesapeake Beach. Having lived on 17th Street from 1968 to 1992, and then St. Andrews Drive from 1992 to 2003. My home address is not currently 20732, but my heart is and will always be in Chesapeake Beach. I have worked at the Rod and Reel for 38 years. We have spent our lives committed to making the Rod and Reel a place that families could come to make the same memories that we still cherish from our childhood. Have things changed? Of course they have. We recall the public beach where Windward Key is now, the ball fields where the shopping center is now located, and the amusement park where Chesapeake Station is. We also used to ice skate at the old Ward Farm where Chesapeake Village is. And who could forget Chuck's Carryout, who had the best banana split in town. Without these changes, most of the residents currently living and owning businesses in this town would not be here today. Children and grandchildren of Chesapeake Beach residents have had to relocate as they've grown up, as many were not able to afford to live in Chesapeake Beach. The town needs market rate luxury housing for families, who cannot afford to purchase a home or who are older and do not have the means to take care of a home. The charm of Chesapeake Beach is what attracted you to the community. Why should we deny that same opportunity to other families?
My name is Wes Donovan. I too was born and raised here in town. I grew up on C Street behind Stennett's, and then I kind of bounced around a little bit for the next 3 decades, but living here in town. The 5 projects that were submitted to the town in January, they've been long-term plans of ours, and they've been a part of our vision to improve Chesapeake Beach for quite some time. And, you know, long-term plans are just that, for the long term. It shouldn't be any great surprise to anyone involved in planning and zoning or the town. And these, I think 3 of the projects were in the 2010 comprehensive plan. So, you know, when looking at the moratorium and the reasoning that it's being imposed, you know, it's very unfair. It's clearly directed to stop these 5 projects, and common sense is needed. You know, the Planning and Zoning Commission in November approved Beach Elementary School, and then you guys had an 1.5 hour long meeting about comprehensive plan and the height in town. So the Planning and Zoning Commission can walk and chew gum at the same time. And like I said, common sense is needed. You know, for the projects, as Mr. Blitz said, we paid for water and sewer taps. Some of the mitigation work has already been done over at Stennett's, where we applied for 11 townhouses. We've already put in the off-street parking. We even gave the town an easement on the 1 lot. And, you know, everything that we want to hopefully build one day is within the town's charm. And, you know, it goes without saying some of the benefits the town has had, because, you know, the Rod and Reel has been here for 75 years. And, you know, we have over 200 people that are employed here right now, many of them locals. And, you know, we think that the 5 projects that we proposed, you know, will still continue to keep the town a great place to live. And, you know, if I can steal North Beach's, what do they call it? North Beach Jewel of the Chesapeake or something like that. What we're proposing to do would still keep Chesapeake Beach a very good place to live and work. So, you know, I just ask that common sense and also integrity. Integrity to do the right thing. What we proposed is within the current zoning laws. And, you know, because there's a comprehensive plan that, you know, is being updated that would completely change the current zoning laws. You know, now the moratorium is being proposed, and integrity is very important, especially when you're dealing with the public. So, you know, I thank you for your time, and you guys have a very arduous task ahead of you, and we're just looking for a fair shake. And, you know, these projects, again, are for the benefit of the community.
Well, and as a local business in this community, we have to ask, where is the local support? It seems we've been fought at every turn, and there is a definite pattern. When looking at the proposed plans by the town and the desire for other development, the real issue does not appear to be what is being built, it is who is building it. In the State of the Town address, the town asked us for our trust. to trust the town in 2021. Trust is the foundation of all relationships. The trust is not just given, trust is earned. Chairman and members of this committee, we are trusting that you will be fair, just, and treat us equal as we work together to honor and serve this great community of Chesapeake Beach. Thank you for your time.
Okay, well, thank you very much. The rod and reel has been it's an understatement to say a critical part of this community for decades. I would also say that the moratorium is not just for rod and reel properties. It's generic and it's not specific to your properties. You make a couple of great points have been made. I think that the town has undergone tremendous changes over the decades, from the amusement park to the beaches, and it's changed over time. And that the changes that this commission is considering are significant, major changes. And I think it's also should be noted that we can't make them ourselves. It has, the town council has to approve anything that we suggest. And as we embark on this project, it would be nice to have the town council give us some direction, whether they want us to continue the way we're going or send us in another direction. Let's see, I think we have some others here who would like to speak. I should also point out, we have received several emails from Ms. Wills and Ms. Wilkerson. Those have been distributed to the commissioners so that they could have the benefit of those comments. We also received a comment from the person who is managing, I think it's one of the major developments right now. So those are in the record, or will be on the record, along with the very detailed 13-page letter which Mr. Blitz provided on his client's behalf. So let me move now, if I may, to those who would like to make a comment. Ms. Jasmine Johnson.
Hello, can you hear me? This is Joshua Johnson.
Okay.
And appreciate the opportunity here. Couple things. Number one, Cindy, really appreciate where you're coming from. It's a hot seat, a lot of responsibility, hearing a lot of things. One thing that definitely needs to be pointed out, 2 to 5 people made this change with a couple of complaints. There's been 4 different research venues that have been used for vacation rentals, and 600 petitions versus those. The next door, which was 65-75% for, the town made something, and that was clear that they were for.
Is this about the moratorium? Well, I'm confused. Are we talking about the moratorium, or what are we talking about?
I thought this was just an open moment for us. I definitely want to mention about the moratorium as well. So, I get what you're saying. The people have spoken, and we've waited 6 months to get on the docket. I'm sure that they can wait an hour in order to be able to talk. But so I get what you're saying. I do.
Mr. Johnson, you can't hijack this for your particular subject. It's a vital subject, but we have a limited time. We have to hear from people on the topic of the moratorium. That's the subject of this hearing. That's how.
Mr. Chairman, point of order, please. Point of order, Mr. Chairman.
Okay.
We need to get back on track on the moratorium, please.
And I'll do that. So I did want to mention, we have $11 million in the bank, and everybody has a dream when they're a child. And part of the dream that the Donovans have created here help our tax base. They've had the permits. We used to do business with a handshake. They've had the things that are in place. And I think it sets a dangerous pretense for us to move forward without that ability, because it might be the Donovans today, but maybe tomorrow it's one of us. And to assure the fact that we are having consistency, maybe it's not every single one of the 5 different zones. I'm not going to claim to understand everything here. But maybe it's not all 5, but maybe you're moving forward with something. But, you know, they have done a lot for this community, and being able to invest when they've taken the risk. We have somebody that, whether it's the Donovans or someone else, that are taking their financial resources and putting it towards our community. And if we looked at having an investor, whether, you know, you love the Rod and Reel Club, you don't, if you have a private investor that's going to put money into your business or into your community, you'd like to be able to take advantage of that. And as a dream, somebody that's had a dream myself, someone that's clearly, I've seen what they've done and I've appreciated that. And, you know, the revenues that they've generated, the revenues that they can. And, you know, there's individuals here that are waiting 4 months to just get an opportunity to rent somewhere right now. I know of 2 people, and they're in the line for 4 months waiting, and want to be able to give people that want to live in this area the opportunities too. So I appreciate the time. I'll turn it back over to you.
All right, Mr. Johnson, would you please state your name and address? I forgot to ask that.
Joshua Johnson, 3814 26th Street.
Thank you. Mr. Abner.
Hello, how is everyone tonight? I'm speaking on behalf of my family, and we're all natives to Chesapeake Beach. And I'm sure many of you know my father, Robert Abner. He wasn't able to make it tonight. He was in here earlier, but he had to get off because he's picking crabs up from the airport. We've been in business in Chesapeake Beach since the 60s. My dad has. He acquired the land from his grandfather, and now he wants me to help take the family business to the next step. And I think in the Articles of Old Business, Section D, it kind of puts a damper on what I'm able to do with my family's property in the future. And I can relate much with the Donovans that I don't necessarily think it's fair, where we can move forward and invest back into the community that we came from. So that's all I really wanted to say. This is my first time in one of these meetings, and I kind of want to start being more involved. So thank you for having me.
Thank you for the comment, dear. So you were opposed to the moratorium or for the moratorium?
At this point, I don't think I have enough information to draw a conclusion. I know that there's something that's trying to be solved, and I think that there's many ways we can do so. I don't think necessarily this direction may be the answer, but I'd like to gather more information before I give my verdict on where we should go in the future. It seems as if the biggest issue we have is we're worried about traffic and potentially having flood zones and whatnot. And I think there's ways that our businesses can help with that, and we're willing to invest in our community and make it better. So if you'll allow us to grow and continue serving our community, we will.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Abner.
Thank you.
Next, Mr. Montague. Please state your name and address, and then we'll continue on.
Hi, my name is Shad Montague, and I own a property at 3802 East Chesapeake Beach Road. And I agree with the Donovans. I think that I haven't ever really heard a situation where you stop working for the now and what's happening in the future in a planning and zoning agenda meeting, and then just say you're gonna stop doing that because of something you should be working on in general already. So, you know, it's pretty straightforward. I think that you can't just stop doing what the planning and zoning department is actually supposed to do. It's not really logical. I think that that's just something, you know, I think several other people, you know, would say it too. I understand it is very tough for you folks. You work very hard. Obviously we're up very late talking about these things, and not that I think that it should be any more, I guess, time or situations for everyone, you know, all the members on the board. But I think that also it's got to work for everyone, and you put it into a situation where it creates issues for businesses, and that's part of the tax base of what the town is established on. So I would just say that I'd agree with the Donovans, and I think that you know, we shouldn't stop.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Montague. Mr. Norris. Mr. Norris, are you there?
Yes, I had to unmute my mic. Thank you. My name is Kevin Norris, and I am an attorney. I represent Chesapeake Beach Properties LLC. They currently own property at 8302 Moffett Run as part of Bayview Hills. It is the 8.33 acre residue that you've heard about off and on for the past year throughout your comprehensive zoning updates and the various meetings you've had. My client opposes any moratorium, so we'll put that on the record. And the reason for it is that while the moratorium itself seems to be geared at 5 projects, it specifically mentions 5 projects recently submitted, which are the Donovans, it also affects everybody in the town and every project that's in progress. Whatever the process of review is could be affected by this moratorium, as well as prohibiting anything new from coming in. So I currently have comments. You know, the owner of the property has relied upon the comprehensive plan and the zoning ordinance and the subdivision regulations for more than 20 years. This property is zoned planned residential community, and it's part of Bayview Hills. So there's been reliance upon your laws, much like Mr. Blitz has mentioned that the Donovans have relied upon them. And however, I could get into the many things and sort of repeat myself with regards to the tax base and the need for homes and the need for housing and need for things that are affordable. Those are well established by Mr. Blitz. So I want to take your time and point you to the actual resolution itself. On the second page, the list under the middle of the whereas, those list of A through F, as well as G, H, and I that were added tonight. Each one of those things, while concerns, can all be handled through proper development and proper review processes. It's not a difficult thing to overcome them. Some of them are actually simple changes. Continuing on to page 3, one of the things that I picked up on rather quickly was that you want to halt the review process and submittal processes to impose some future and unknown regulations. While you seem predetermined to make significant changes in the comprehensive plan, those changes are unknown. And you're going to put people's lives and their reliance upon the current laws and the current regulations on hold for however long, I don't know. You claim to be for a year, but it's really unlikely that you get all this approved within a year. I wish you well. I've never seen comprehensive plans, zoning ordinance, and subdivision regulations all updated within a year. The other thing that I want to point out is that Mr. Kubiak discussed what types of projects are not going to be affected and where their level of approval sits. That is really not reflected in the words of the proposed moratorium. If you look under therefore be it resolved, he makes reference, there's reference being made to 2 portions of the code that talk about record or grandfathered projects. A good attorney, which there's going to be some available, could easily refute that this applies to nothing except anything in the critical area. That definition of grandfathered is under the critical area regulations and the subdivision regulations. So there needs to be some significant work, because while the intention up top with all the whereases is fairly clear, the implementation is really ambiguous. It's really unknown as to what level of progress somebody could have. Record, according to the critical area regulations, was in existence prior to the enactment of the regulations. Which ones? While it might mean the moratorium, it's talking about a recorded lot, not not something with approval from the planning commission. So I think there's been many wonderful points. What Mr. Blitz talked about, I thought was great. And I'd just like to add a few more that I have. And again, I want to go on record that my client is opposed to the moratorium. And I thank you for your time.
Thank you, Mr. Norris. Mr. Giangiglio,
Mr. Giangulio's fine. Mark is fine. How are you, Mr. Chairman?
thank you.
Okay, my name is Mark Giangulio, and I'd just like to say that my address is 3456 Hillgale Drive, Chesapeake Beach, Maryland. And I'd like to preface this with the fact that I've had 7 years experience as a planning board member for a city in another state, so I'm quite familiar with the process and what goes on. So I'm commenting on the role of the planning board here and its ethical responsibility to ensure that long-term vision and planning is at the forefront of all decisions that are made. This includes the enhancement of economic development to maintain and increase property values for all property owners. You've accepted this as your civic responsibility and have been sworn in to serve the town and to enforce the land use laws. The failure of the town to complete the comprehensive master plan after beginning the task in September of 2018 is a failure by our elected officials. There are no excuses. The plans submitted by the Donovan family this evening are legal, and they're referred to in the 2010 master plan that the town currently uses. The moratorium is a complete 180 from all master plans leading up to today. The intent of the moratorium is unfair, unjust, and ultimately illegal. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Councilman Morris.
Yeah, good evening, everybody. Good job, everyone. Chairman Brown, Chris, honorable commissioners, Mary and Wes, thank you for your comments on your parts and your family's contributions to this great town. Zachary, I appreciate your comments there as well. What a town. Just for a second here, everybody. Raise your hand if you live in the town of Chesapeake Beach. I live in town, Chesapeake Beach. And Mary, it's not a matter of who, not to me specifically. I did want to mention that. What a town for all of us. I'm inclined to support a 12-month moratorium, and I'll point to some reasons. This certainly deserves more discussion for sure. But in short, I see it as a tool that'll help us maintain balance in development of large projects, affording our residents a vision of the town. I read the applicant's letter, and I don't underestimate its urgency. I don't underestimate the costs involved in designs. It should be noted that none of these projects have had a shovel in the ground. I think that's important to emphasize there. But really, there's a lot in that letter, and he did a good job. One thing that struck me, and I think it's kind of centrist to my point here tonight, the letter is addressed to Chesapeake Beach Planning and Zoning Commission. In essence, maybe also, this is addressing the town residents. The reason offered by our zoning administration for the delay is our residents' reasons. It's the desire of the residents. There's been tremendous outreach on our vision of the town and what everybody thinks. I mean, how quickly are we forgetting all the numerous meetings that we've had? And Town Hall really did a great job with outreach here. And in many different venues, I might add. We invited residents in to speak their mind and have a say in the vision of their town. Let's see. Bear with me a second here. Development is a good thing. I'm not eschewing development, but maybe we can share with the public plans of an alternative use of those properties. I don't doubt the applicant's attorney's understanding of our town's laws and zoning rules. He was town attorney for quite a long time. He knows the town code inside and out. It's history. It's a golden history. And we're continuing to write golden history in this town, whichever direction we go. But it's also 2021. It's not 2011. It's not 1970. Again, I'm respectful for the efforts that have gone into some plans that have been sitting on a shelf for decades, maybe. And because it was brought up, it's the only reason I'm mentioning this tonight, the cost and value to the town on the taps referenced should be discussed because they're very old and their values are severely outdated. Just as an aside, because that was brought up a couple times tonight. In my view, all things considered, I feel strongly that planning and zoning has advanced our residents' ideas of what the town should be. And that's what's driving these concepts. So I would be in support of a pause if it meant that the residents of the town now and who have put input into its vision of the future can be incorporated into all of our vision here. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Morris. Mr. Spanier. Mr. Spanier, are you there? Okay, the next one I have is Deborah's iPhone. Could you please state your name and your address?
Hi, thank you very much. My name is Deborah Gengilio. I'm a resident at a property 3456 Hillgale Drive. I really disagree with this moratorium. I've listened to a lot of great points that I also agree with, but I do have an isolated point to support just in principle, denying property owners to develop within the confines of the law. I haven't really heard anything to justify a property owner, saying you can't do what you bought that property for. And this restriction currently clearly targets specific development, but as a point was made earlier, will certainly eventually impact all residents. And in principle, I strongly disagree with the moratorium.
Okay, thank you very much. I don't see anyone else with their hand up on the Zoom list here.
Excuse me, Mr. Chairman.
Yes, go ahead if you please state your name and
Thank you.
address.
My name's Bob Carpenter. I own property at 8051 Windward Key Drive. I served 8 years on the town council of Chesapeake Beach, and there is probably no one in town closer in terms of proximity to the rod and rail property than my property. I have a major problem with this moratorium on behalf of the Donovan family, the Luckett family, and the Abner family. All three of those contribute a great deal to the town makeup. I have in the past owned property in North Beach, and I can tell you that my property taxes in Chesapeake Beach, because of those three properties, is approximately half of what the property tax was in North Beach. The Donovans and the Lucketts and the Abners have contributed for many, many years to the town, not just in terms of revenue, but in terms of the character of the town. I know it's easy to attack the largest property owner, the largest employer in the town, but without any of those three properties, we would be paying probably twice what we do in property tax. They contribute to the town, they give back to the town, they employ residents of the town. And I would strongly, strongly encourage you to vote against this moratorium. It strikes me odd that the moratorium is coming up after the plans have been submitted. I would suggest that you're closing the barn door after the horse is out. But again, as a former town council member for 8 years, as a 19-year property owner in Chesapeake Beach, I appreciate what the major landowners and employers in the town do in keeping my property tax as low as they are. And I oppose this moratorium.
Thank you. Is there anyone else that wishes to speak?
Yes, I don't know if you can hear me. Can anybody hear me?
I can hear you. Yes, go ahead. And would
All
you
right, my
please-
name is Gary Luckett. I have a business at 8132 Bayside Road, known as Traders Seafood Steak and Ale. I'm on I had to pull over on the side of the road. I've been trying to do this by cell phone, so I apologize trying to get through. I want to go on record and make sure it's understood that I totally oppose this moratorium. I feel it's much more of a target than it is a moratorium trying to figure things out. I'm also a little confused on a few things I just heard Greg say, that the town council as well as town citizens have lots to say, and there perhaps, if I'm using his words correctly, he said that these properties could be used for other ideas or other businesses. That's almost like controlling what these businesses are going to be on the property. You're not giving these property owners the rights to do what they want with their own property. Again, I was trying to listen to it going down the road, so I apologize if I did not hear that right. So I just want to make sure I'm on record that I'm totally against this moratorium, and thank you for your time.
Okay, thank you very much. Anyone else that wishes to speak?
Chairman Brown?
Yes, Councilman Morris, please go ahead.
I wanted to ensure I had an opportunity at the end of the meeting to speak with something unrelated to the moratorium, please.
Okay, I'll reserve some time for that. Is there anyone else that wants to speak to the moratorium? Okay, hearing none, I will call.
Mr. Chairman, this is Chris Jakubiak. I got a letter from an attorney representing Michael Repke for Richfield Station. And he said he intended to be here, but at the last moment was called away. And he asked me to get into the record a number of comments from him. So I just thought it would be important to do that. Just take me a minute. He is also asking for me to communicate to you a request to amend the resolution in a modest way, but just for the record, I'd like to review that amendment. He represents the Crestview Lane Townhouse community. To paraphrase his letter, he is, as you know, that project has received final plat approval from the Planning Commission and has gone through the process. The only thing that hasn't happened yet is the chairman of the Planning Commission hasn't signed the final plat. And of course, that's you, and you haven't signed it yet because the developer in the town haven't come to terms yet on the public works agreement. And you might remember there are a number of infrastructure changes out there, including the elimination of a pump station and some other things. So he wants to be certain that his project is, this remaining section of Richfield Station is exempted. And I think based on the way the resolution's drafted, it is. This is not a new project and it's been approved already. But he asks for your consideration. In his words, he's asking that the language be added, to exempt, quote, any project currently in the development approval system which has received development plan and or plat approval from the commission. So I passed that on to you, and I said I would communicate that on his behalf.
Okay, I see Mr. Spanier is back. Do you have some comments?
Are you able to hear me?
Yes.
All right, my apologies. So my name's Glenn Spanier. I actually work in Chesapeake Beach, and I'm against this moratorium. And I just want to give you a perspective from an outsider. I recently relocated from Chicago down to this area, and for 3 months, I tried to find reasonable housing, and I ended up in North Beach. I would have loved to stay in Chesapeake Beach, but there just was nothing there for me to rent. That was to my satisfaction or on the market. So again, I just wanted to say totally against this moratorium. I think affordable housing is critical for the Chesapeake area to continue to grow. Without residents, you won't have a town.
All right. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Okay, is there last call for anyone that would like to speak? Hearing and seeing none, I will call the question. Is there anyone that would?
Oh, I would like to discuss it ourselves. Are we going to be able to discuss it?
Well, if someone
Are you
makes
talking about the?
someone
who are you-
seconds it, if someone will make the motion and second it, then we'll have discussion.
Okay.
Do we have anyone that will make the motion?
I don't want to, I have to interject. The proper thing to do now is to close the public hearing, and then you can continue with your regular meeting to discuss this or anything else.
All right, so we will, at this point, close the public meeting, and we are now having a commission meeting. Commissioner Greengold.
I will move the motion with the amendment that I think, Chris, I think that amendment probably should be included in there because I do remember that we have to not exclude him because I know that he has had approval. So don't you agree that amendment has to be included? I'm not hearing Chris.
I'm sorry, Cindy.
I'm saying I will move approval of it with the amended version that you brought up in discussion with the plat approval that we made.
Yeah, and I think it's a reasonable request.
I think it's reasonable. I think
It
that
reflects what
was
it is that the moratorium is drafted. to
right.
achieve.
So I'd move approval with the amendment that Chris, you want to read that amendment so we can hear it again?
It would say that the moratorium would exempt any project currently in the development approval system, which has received development plan and or plat approval from the commission.
Okay, I will go ahead and make that motion that includes that amendment.
All right, do we have a second?
I will second that motion, second the motion for discussion.
All right, so we have a motion, we have a second discussion. Would you like to lead off, Commissioner Blackwelder?
Sure. So first of all, I would like to say that the contribution of the families that spoke in dissent of wanting the moratorium is not lost on me, at least, nor is their investment over the years, etc. What also isn't lost on me, though, is the impact that current residents can experience if we do develop irresponsibly and at a higher capacity than planned for or than expected. And the truth is that conditions do change, and a town can't be hostage to plans of previous decades just because they've been part of the planning. That's what comprehensive planning is for. And I would agree with the fact that we should be basing our plan on previous plans, and we will base our plan on previous plans. If we had to review the plans that were submitted, I would find it irresponsible to approve them without a traffic study. And so being that we are in a pandemic, that would not be possible to properly study the implications of the number of people at the various lights that now exist in Chesapeake Beach, coupled with the various number of cars that are going to be going to the rod and reel, coupled with all of the people that now come to the farmers market and other areas in North Beach. All these conditions have changed, and it would be very irresponsible of us to consider the conditions on which we base our approval to be the same as they were 10 years, 20 years, 30 years ago. And I do believe that there are plenty of opportunities for those properties that will be discussed comprehensively as we comprehensively plan. And I would take the town attorney's advice to leave everything up to vesting. And, you know, we may have to consider these plans based on the current zoning. And if we're made to, we will. But we do need to comprehensively plan for everybody. And that means that some properties might undergo zoning changes, and that's just what happens with comprehensive planning. And I would say that comprehensive planning also awarded some of these changes that imposed problems for other properties or issues for other properties. Everybody has a stake in this town, and we will comprehensively plan for everybody fairly and with just consideration of investment and impact to people's lives equally. Thank you.
Okay, Commissioner Baralt.
Yes, I just wanted to say I have a few comments that, you know, it's been emphasized about comprehensive plans have been in effect since 1971. Well, that's over 50 years ago. And I think it's naive to believe there haven't been impactful changes that require the town to look at, and certainly the commission, as far as to develop the comprehensive plan in lieu of the last 50 years. I mean, I just think that it's myopic not to realize that there have been changes that might require, you know, a significant revision to be made. And I think also that the commission is trustworthy and I think has integrity and can make those decisions and recommendations, as you pointed out, that the town council actually votes and approves, that we only make the recommendations to the council regarding the comprehensive plan. And I just want to say that, you know, I think each of us, the commissioners, are interested in protection and the balance of these projects so that they are in the best interests of the town. So thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Commissioner Larson.
Well, I would second what Laurie and Kathleen has said. My head's swimming a little bit on this because I'm the newest commissioner, and a lot of this stuff is still pretty new to me. But I would agree that we can't, that we have a forward-looking comprehensive plan to implement, and it's just going to take time. And that I want to make sure it's right, and so that's the reason I want to progress along those lines.
All right, thank you. Commissioner Greengold, did you want to make a statement?
You know, I appreciate what hard work a business takes. I've been a business owner, and I know that the Donovan family has done a remarkable job with their business. I will tell you, I really have the utmost respect for what they're able to do and what they have done. And I, for one, have no intention of directing anything towards one family or another, or one development or another. That is not my intention. I've been appointed to try and do the best job I can at looking at the entire picture. As Councilman Moore said, we have to find a balance between what the businesses need and want and what the residences need and want. And you know, it's a tough balance. It really is. And I have seen at least one of those projects come through. But if I recall, that plan was not submitted. It was withdrawn. And at that point, when we started discussing the plan, we realized we have a lot of shortages in this community. We have a shortage of tot lots and places for recreation. I know we have water, but you know, even that's being is going away as we speak. So you know, we have to look at so many different things and make sure that the people who do move in see a beautiful community that has everything in balance and is there for them to enjoy. So it is not, there's no intention here at all to take away from any particular developer or try and harm people's livelihoods. Again, we could, as Lori said, we could do damage if we don't take everything into consideration. So lest you think that we have our personal agendas, I can assure you what I am a real estate investor myself. Okay, I usually invest on the West Coast, however, but I'm an investor as well. So I understand the investor's point of view here. I'm not really understanding like Mr. Johnson, who says that we need more rentals, but yet he wants short-term rentals, which take away from the long-term rentals. So I'm kind of confused about that, but that's for another discussion. But the point is, I'm here to look out for everybody's interests, including the business owner's interests as well. So that's all I have to say. And thank you for all participating. I really appreciate it.
Okay, and finally, Mr. Evans, Commissioner Evans.
Okay, yeah, kind of bouncing off what other commissioners said. I think we haven't really realized the impacts of COVID and these other major developments going on, like the Heritage Woods and the new parking garage and the new a couple other developments. We haven't really seen the impacts of that because we haven't had the tourism that we normally have. So I think the moratorium will give us the time to really see the impacts of those. And if we were to address these 5 projects right now, we would not be doing our due diligence to do our research on traffic impacts and other impacts. But given the feedback that we've gotten from the public and the businesses, it may be an option to shorten the moratorium to 9 months if that's what was originally proposed, which would kind of it would move us along. It would kind of move us along with the comprehensive plan, and also allow us to see what a full summer impact has on us. That's all I have.
Thank you, Commissioner Evans. Are you making a motion to amend the resolution to 9 months versus 12?
Yeah, I mean, I'll put the motion out there. I mean, it sounds like everybody's shooting for the 12 months, but I think 9 months would allow us to see the impacts of a full summer, and it would at least lessen the blow per se. So I'll make the motion.
All right. So Do I hear any opposition to that motion?
Well, I oppose it because I think that's unrealistic. I think if we have the option of going to 12 and we can pull it back because we get done more quickly, that's one thing. But I think that these issues are very challenging. And if we go more quickly, I think we're going to shortchange some of these items. And I don't think we really want to do that. I think if we give ourselves 12 months, we are in a better position to take our time and be more thorough and complete. So I'm not in favor of the amended version of the motion.
All right, anyone else?
But you didn't ask for a second, so we should have asked for a second first, and the second may have dropped it, I don't know.
Do we have a second to that motion?
Who seconded that, the revision? Who seconded that motion? Nobody seconded the motion.
Okay, so.
I said the revision. I'm on the fence about this 9 months. I think that we have an obligation to get done as quickly as possible, but I fully intend to do that. I don't know if amending it to 9 months is going to help or not help that situation. My intent is to get done as quickly as possible.
So you second Commissioner Evans' amendment or not?
No, I don't second the 9-month amendment. I second Cindy's amendment. But if somebody were to second it, I would be open to it.
Okay, now I just had an amendment to the original motion, so let's not get confused here on that.
Right. Is there anyone that seconds the amendment to 9 months that Commissioner Evans has proposed? All right, hearing none, it remains the draft amendment for 12 months stands. That draft resolution for 12 months moratorium stands. Do we have a motion to approve the resolution as amended by Commissioner Greengold and Mr. Jakubiec and Commissioner Blackwelder?
Larry, I have one more amendment to make. Or, excuse me, Mr. Chairman. May I make one more amendment?
Go ahead.
Sorry about that. There was a discussion about, I think this point here. There's a line in this moratorium, and it reads, whereas the direction provided by the workshops and subsequent work on the update to the comprehensive plan require, and then the words read, a wholesale rewrite of previous comprehensive plan updates. And I would like to amend that to say, instead of a wholesale rewrite, I would like to say, whereas the direction provided by the workshops and subsequent work on the update to the comprehensive plan require that the update to the 2010 plan include embracing limited residential growth and focusing on development, commercial and recreational amenities, and consider traffic impact of recent development to the community.
Can you repeat that once more, and then we'll ask for a second?
Okay. I can make it even simpler. Whereas the direction provided by workshops and subsequent work on the update to the comprehensive plan require that the update to the 2010 comprehensive plan consider impact of recent development on traffic.
Isn't that included in the other amendment you made in GH and I? Because spoke about the traffic as well.
It probably is. What I'd like to get rid of is the idea that we need to do a wholesale rewrite, because we do not need to
Why
do
don't
a
we-
wholesale rewrite.
Why don't we take out the word wholesale and just say, or revision, instead of rewrite, say revision of the previous.
Do
That's
we
on
have a
page one,
motion?
by the way.
Do we have a motion?
There is a motion, and I have to approve the amendment to my motion, and I don't think I want to approve the amendment because it's confusing the situation, I think, a little bit right now. I think the motion that we have is pretty clear as far as just amending that one little area about the plat that we'd already approved. I think we should keep it clean, and this is such a complicated motion and moratorium. I don't think we want to muddy any more of this issue. I think we need to keep it clean, and just, I think we should call for the question, Larry, and get the vote.
Well, we've already amended it a couple times, so.
Well,
um,
wait a minute, you've amended my motion. No, you mean you amended the original motion, right? But that hasn't been amended. So yeah, just one time it's been amended.
Okay, I think I have a way forward on this. I'm sorry to confuse things, but I think this wholesale rewrite needs to get out of there. So I would like to make a motion to remove the word
Wait,
wholesale.
we got to clear off my motion first before we can go to a second motion. And I have to approve any amendment to my motion. So I think we need to go back to some point of order here. I need to clear off this motion. We either vote on it and get rid of it, or I have to approve Lori's new motion. That's how that has to work.
All right,
So
would you please?
I think I should call for the question and ask for the vote, please.
Well, I'm very confused about what you're amending and removing, so could you clarify that, please?
Okay, I have made a motion to approve the moratorium with the amended wording that Chris just gave us about the plat being approved, and that, Chris, you want to read that again, that amendment, please? Where is Chris when I need him?
It says, it exempts any project currently in the development approval system which has received development plan and/or plat approval from the Planning Commission.
Okay, so I approve the motion with that amendment, And that was seconded. And so we now have to discuss that, and then we take a vote on it. And if Lori wants to make an amendment to that, I have to approve that amendment to my motion, or else we have to vote on mine and get rid of it one way or the other.
Well, your motion is in the language of the resolution. Laura's motion is in the preamble. So let's talk, you have a motion, we had a second, I believe. We discussed it. All in favor of including the language that the zoning administrator and Commissioner Greengold recommended in the resolution, say aye.
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 Okay, so that's settled. Or is that satisfactory, Commissioner Greengold?
I think I would like to leave it at that, but if Lori needs to come back and add one more thing, I guess we can. I don't know. I don't know how we deal with that, but I think
The way we deal with it is we let Commissioner Blackwelder make her statement. If you'd please go ahead.
Okay, so do I need to make a motion to include letters G, H, and I that I proposed?
That was done. That's been included.
That was done. That was done.
Now, do you have any other amendments?
I would like to make a motion to remove the word wholesale from the sentence Whereas the direction provided by the workshops and subsequent work on the update to the comprehensive plan require a rewrite of the previous comprehensive plan 2010 update.
Okay, so your motion is to remove the word wholesale from that whereas clause. Is that correct?
Yes.
Do we have a second?
I second.
All right. Do we have all in favor?
We need to discuss it first, though. We need to discuss this. Can we discuss it first before we vote on it? I know it sounds ridiculous, but
Go ahead. Go ahead.
I'm sorry. I just want to, it's just, I want Chris to have the opportunity. I think the law is that we need to rewrite it. I don't think the law allows us to just take, cut and paste. Chris, are you there? Can you answer my question about this? I don't know what the laws are in Maryland about that.
Yeah, so we're clearly moving forward to a substantial rewrite, and there's no going back now with the cut and paste. I mean, I'm way too far ahead, as you know, and we've been working for a long time. We spent the first 6 months understanding sea level rise and the implications for the town's infrastructure and development planning. This is a substantial change to the current plan for fundamentally important reasons. So this is not about rewriting in a minor way. So Cindy, I think your instincts are right on this.
Yeah.
Is there any more discussion on Commissioner Blackwelder's motion? Okay. Can we get a vote? All in favor of deleting the word wholesale from that whereas clause, would you say aye?
Aye.
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 All opposed?
No.
Okay, the ayes have it. Are there any more amendments that commissioners wish to make to this resolution before we vote on the resolution in total? Hearing none. Is there a motion to approve the resolution as amended?
I make the motion to approve it
Do we
as
have
amended.
do we have a second?
I'm
I second.
confused. I'm so confused. I thought we just I just thought we voted on it. I'm trying to figure out what we're doing now. What are we doing? We're voting on what again?
Well, keep up now.
I know. I'm so
Voting
sorry. I
on-
must be behind on this. What am I thought we had just voted on
Okay,
the
okay,
resolution.
if you'll be quiet for a second, I'll explain. We are voting on the resolution as amended with your amendment, with Commissioner Blackwelder's amendments of the 3 paragraphs and the, I believe wholesale amendment was not approved. So we are voting on the resolution. So do we have a second?
I will second.
Second.
Okay, so we have, I believe Commissioner Baralt made the motion, and was it Commissioner Evans that seconded?
It was Mr.
It
Larson.
was me.
Mr. Larson.
The Larson seconded. All right. All in favor, let me go down the list. Commissioner Baralt, in favor or opposed?
In favor.
In favor. Commissioner Evans,
I just had a quick question. Does this need to be unanimous for it to pass?
no.
Okay, I'm gonna vote nay on it.
Okay, nay. Commissioner Greengold,
Aye.
Commissioner Larson,
I'm in favor.
okay, and Commissioner Blackwelder.
Also in favor.
I understand the vote to be 4-1. The resolution passes and will be forwarded to the town council for their action. because it is not effective without town council approval. Let me say a couple words. I really appreciate the our business community coming out this evening. I would point out that we haven't had a lot of input from the business community in the past, and I'm hoping that the town economic committee will put together a appendix to the comprehensive plan that we can add to it and include with the comprehensive plan. So that is Council Member Jaworski heads up that committee. I would hope that you'll engage with him, but also engage with us in the future as we work on this comprehensive plan. You also have an opportunity to, those of you that opposed or didn't supported, to voice your position to the town council on whether this moratorium should go into effect or not. So thank you very much for your participation. I believe Council Member Morris had something he wanted to add.
Yes, Chairman Brown, thank you. As an aside, because it was mentioned earlier, myself and Mr. Repke have disagreed with quite a bit over the years. One of the things we certainly agree on is getting complete back there at the trailhead. And anything that the town can do to get him complete in Richfield Station and out of this town is a check in my book. Short-term rentals. And again, I preface this with there was tremendous outreach by the town. It was very impressive the way they outreach to engage with the public regarding this matter. We don't need to know that short-term rentals aren't allowed in town. And that's a waste of the town's apparatus. And plainly, we all can see tonight that this matter should have been sent up to council already. I think that's where it really belongs. What we need to know is we need to find out if we are willing to find a way to allow and regulate a limited number of these properties where they're not otherwise prohibited in town. That's what we need to find out. And again, we don't need to know that they're not allowed in town. We know that. And so running down that road, I think, is a waste of time. And that's pretty obvious at this point to me. Planning and zoning can't decide that anyway. I'm asking for the mayor to do the right thing and bring this matter immediately to town council discussion, whether we want to allow short-term rentals in some capacity or not. Getting to that end game there is very important. And I've been very sensitive and aware lately of all the pressures there. To put it one way, if the town were to vote no and not allow this, I would, in respect of the applicants, I would like to let them know 4 months ago. This matter started in August and it kind of snuck up on council. But there's been some things that have hit all of us sideways lately, and we're all under the gun. We're under a lot of pressure. We're committed to find a good balance for everybody that's in town. So on short-term rentals, I'm looking for the mayor for some leadership on this, please. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Morris. Let's see, are there any closing comments from any of the public? Hearing none, do I have a motion to adjourn?
Can I make a comment, Mr. Brown?
Yes, Commissioner Gringo.
I'm just a little concerned. One of the issues that I think I'm having with these meetings is that the public hearings are going on too long. And like, I appreciate hearing from everybody, but I want to hear from everybody. And I think some people, because they don't feel like they can get in, are leaving us. And I want to make it a little briefer per person, maybe time it so that we make sure that we get everybody in. And that's all I'm asking, is that we time limit everybody so that we can get people who are on cell phones, et cetera, to come on, to stay on. That's all I have.
All right. Well, I have tried to let everybody have an opportunity to speak. If they don't hang around for their turn, there's not much I can do about that. Do I have a motion to adjourn?
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Chairman Brown. A second?
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, the next, thank everybody for their participation. The next meeting will be March 24th. Anybody that has comments about this hearing, please send them to the Planning Commission via the town's website. Thank you very much and good night.
Good night now.
Thank you, everyone.
What a disaster.